So Henry, what do you know about renewable energy sources?
I don't really know much about renewable energy sources. Could you tell me more, Jason?
Yeah, no, I could definitely tell you more. So I think the breakdown is basically that currently we're using a lot of fossil fuels to provide energy for us. And so fossil fuels, what are they? They're essentially it's coal, gases that we're using to power our energy. But the thing with that is it's not a good idea to continue with that process because when you use fossil fuels, there's a lot of CO2 emission as well as greenhouse gas emission. So we kind of want to try to stray away from that and try something new. Try renewable energy sources. And what renewable energy sources are, it's using solar power as well as wind power to provide the energy instead of the fossil fuels. But
Well then, Jason, why don't we just replace the entire system? Why don't we just switch out all our fossil fuel systems and then replace it with renewable energy systems?
Yeah, see, Henry, that sounds nice, but it's more difficult than that. There's a lot of variables involved. So number one thing, we consume a lot of energy, and that's what makes it more difficult. We can't just replace, the fossil fuels, and then just say, okay, well, if we switch it over to renewable energy sources, will that be sufficient enough to cover our energy needs? It's not necessarily always going to be reliable. If we're saying we're going to use solar power as well as wind power, those are good sources because obviously they have very little CO2 emission and greenhouse gas emission, but it doesn't. We're not sure if it'll supply us with enough energy on its own. Um, and also to replace the entire system right now is just difficult in general. But I think one important thing that we could do ourselves as human beings is make a step or kind of make a stand ourselves by reducing our energy consumption. And I know I've heard it, and I'm sure you've heard it in the past that people tell you all the time, turn off your lights when you're not using them, take shorter showers, things like that, where you could reduce the energy consumption. And if you think about it, if everybody did it, it's hard to say, but if everybody did a little bit on their end, we would reduce energy consumption significantly.
Okay, so Jason, I know you talked a lot about the impracticabilities of, just wiping out the old system and implementing the new system with renewable energy at its foundation. But I feel like down the road there's going to be a lot more unforeseen hardships. Could you just elaborate more about that?
Yeah, so I think another major concern that we have is, will investors actually invest in this? One thing is it's very expensive. So if you have to build these wind turbines, solar panels, it's going to be a lot of money, and that's not even considering that we have to also install power lines within our cities. So that's a lot of money, and so I think investors will be concerned about that. But also, how do they know for sure that this is all going to work out? Like this isn't a for sure type of deal. We're not sure if we can just use solar power, wind power to just power everything, and will it be sustainable? Like, will we need more energy? Will people actually start lowering their energy consumption? So there's a lot of variables here that investors might say, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's a good idea to invest in this because at the end of the day, investors, they invest for their own wealth as well. It's one thing to do it for society, but if they don't think this is going to be a smart decision, a smart business decision, then they might not go on with the idea. So that's one.
Okay, Jason, I know you mentioned a lot about long-term benefits and benefits down the road that we're not sure of, but are going to be really beneficial. What if I was a really self-motivated investor and I wanted to secure not only my future but my economic interests?
Okay, I think that's fair to say. Even everybody is in it for themselves, even a little bit. So I'd say, okay, obviously it's gonna take a big investment to get this going. If you want to build all the infrastructure to get renewable energy to power us instead, but down the line, it'll be a smart solution because let's say we start running out of fossil fuels. What's gonna happen then if we start running out of it? Well then, law of supply and demand. We'll have low supply and high demand, and with that, price of energy consumption will be very, very high, and that'll be a huge problem. Say you have heart disease, cancer, those are all things that could have been caused by, you know, greenhouse gas emissions, carbon dioxide emissions. You may not know that, but there is a correlation there.
Yeah,
And
and
if we,
even if I don't get sick, my insurance premiums are going to go up because everyone around me is going to get sick.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, so I think those are 2 points where it'll be a cost saving for you, even though we don't think of it now, because you might just think, all right, well, they're building all this stuff and taxpayers' money is going into it. You know, we think about that first, but let's think, let's think more logically. Let's think about like the long process of it.